All right, Jason Leydon here. You are one of the most requested guests we've ever had.
Really?
A lot of people, a lot of people. You've been around a long time, and I don't know about you, but for me, it feels like, we've just been chugging along that we forget that we are kind of I don't want to say experts, but we've got a lot of experience under the belts.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's wow, that makes me feel good. Look at that.
Well, let's recap the career. Outside of your personal endeavors, which are successful, you've had a very successful box in CrossFit Milford. You've got to be approaching what, 13 years now?
We're just in the 11th right now. Yeah. So almost 12.
Almost 12 years. You've had, how many boxes would you say opened from underneath you, members and coaching?
Probably about 23.
That's a very specific number. Are you counting?
Well, no, I know I didn't want to take the time to count, but we're definitely around that 20 mark from just around the state of Connecticut. People have left here, opened up gyms in other states. People I've mentored, some coaches that left and opened up gyms. So been around that number.
I do want to circle back to that, but while we're on your credentials, you've coached numerous games athletes throughout the years. You've been a part of the seminar staff. You've, a big part of the Power Monkey training that's going on. Anything else I'm skipping?
I think that's good. We don't need to.
Good.
Yeah.
What do you remember the first box that opened from underneath you?
I do.
Who was it?
I do. Shoreline Athletics.
So that's the Plumes, right?
Yep, Dave and Lauren. Yeah.
How did you take that?
At first, I took it hard because I looked at it in the wrong light, and I love Dave and Lauren, and we have a great relationship now. But when that happened, I was like, oh man, I'm losing a coach. And when that happened in the state of Connecticut, right, there was 9 facilities that had just opened. It's so it's a new one opens, you're like, oh my God, a new CrossFit gym's opening. What is going on, And but looking at it now, it's that's so exciting when that happens, and I'm so excited for them. They have an amazingly successful gym. Dave's someone who I ask advice on things, and being able to look at that light is I look at it, as a leader, as a mentor, people can't stay with you forever. You can only give so much. And when you give what you can give, or they receive what you have to give, it's time for them to move on, no matter what that might be, whether it's going to move on to somebody else, whether it's going to move on to another program, because the only way people can learn is through experience, and people need constant experience in order to really develop into who they are, where they want to be, what they want to do, So I looked at it from a completely selfish light back then, but that was 10 years ago. It was brand new into the game, and but now it's a whole new light that I look through.
Yeah, I know. I was telling somebody about it recently. I was like, you don't get it. In 2008, 9, when a box opened, there was 100, 200 boxes in the world. You're like, there's another one in Connecticut? What's going to happen? So
yeah, totally.
It's interesting to see how our perspectives have changed. The big thing I want to talk to you about right now is, obviously, with all going on out there, the pandemic. As an experienced box owner, as someone that's been around for a very long time and really been through a lot of the changes in CrossFit, this is one we weren't expecting. But what are some of the things CrossFit Milford and you and your coaching staff are doing to be proactive during this time?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's something that you there, Jay?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, for people listening, guys, I have terrible Wi-Fi, so I apologize if it kind of goes in and out. I'm thinking about so we think about our facility, our facilities, meaning CrossFit gyms, we're way different than other facilities. So if you have a membership to a skating rink and that closes down, you're probably going to stop your membership there because you can't skate. As a CrossFit facility, we're really looking to sell not just the programming, but the experience and the connection in the community. And that's something that's pushed upon a lot. So when people aren't able to come into the community, it's our job to continually maintain that. And for me, it was sort of bringing it way back to the grassroots of when we first opened up the facility, which was the human connection and the human involvement and the human interaction. And that's really what I'm striving and pushing for in these times, is how can I continually develop value to everybody within inside the facility? And for me, there's different levels of perceived value from different archetypes, right? So from different personalities. You have people who value programming and people who are going to value, you know, a weightlifting seminar or a rowing clinic. You have people who value the facility itself. They want to see cleanliness. They want to see new equipment. They want to see something going up on the wall, you know? And there's people that value the social aspect of our facilities, of what we provide. You know, it goes way beyond. So for me, as a box owner, facility owner, it's understanding these different levels of value. Because for myself, I don't value social gatherings, right? Like, I'm an extreme introvert. I will gladly go home by myself with my family, sit down and be totally fine, right? And be like a hermit. And I could be fine with that, I'd be completely happy. But I know that there's lots of people that don't want that, and they want the social environment. And I know there's plenty of people that want editorial on snatch technique or bench press setup, right? And I know there's people that want to see highlights being done in the facility. So from a value standpoint right now, I'm trying to continually deliver that value to all those different archetypes of personalities every single day, so that every single day people are still feeling connected to the internal environment of CrossFit Milford from a virtual perspective. So we're doing things. We have our members only page, and you know, everyone's doing the same thing with the at-home workouts and limited equipment workouts and the equipment loan outs. So we have all that going on. But every single day, I'm trying to touch on those different values within inside of our community. So we're running maybe like anywhere from 5 to 6 live stream stuff a day of core workouts, of facility. Hey, check out the facility. Look what we're working on today. We're doing kettlebell workshops. We're emailing every single person within inside of our gym every single day. Every single day they get a mass email from me. And then our coaches are connected to a certain group of members, and they get a personal email once a week. You know, so it's continually trying to drive that connection to the facility. And that's really kind of what's driving us right now through this time.
As a long-standing box, have you seen this impact your membership? I know a lot of box owners are stressed out, and with the uncertainty of how long this is going to go, they're worried about how long they can keep the members that have stayed. What's been your experience so far?
I'm in the same boat, you know, so we've had some members stop. We've had some members stay, you know, and it's like, no one knows the economical hardship that this is going to cause, you know, and there's lots of loans out there that we're going for as well to set us up for my employees, for the facility, for rent, for utilities. And if this does keep progressing longer and longer and longer, I mean, there is going to be economic hardship for everybody, and the uncertainty of memberships is going to be hard, you know, and this is really causing us to look at different veins of our business and how can we continue to provide stuff to keep people coming in no matter what it is. Because at one point we can't open the doors back up, and we have to understand that what if things change at that point? Like, can you open up and have a 25-person class in a small facility? Maybe not, you know, based off whatever the situation could or couldn't be. So how are your different revenue streams from a business operational standpoint of personal training, nutritional consults, supplement sales, shirt sales, like the things of running a business? Do you have these other avenues built up to allow for yourself to success and increase a current member's price point, or are you solely relying on just the class setting, you know? And there's lots of uncertainty for me, absolutely, with how this might turn out. But I guess I'm just trying to focus on what I can do like right now and not worry about that. Just make sure like I'm trying to harvest and grow all the different components now. So if something does like that happen, we're able to kind of like segue into other and, you know, pivot into another position to allow us to keep something going, you know?
Yeah, I think that's all we can do right now. No one's telling us when we can open again. And I think some of the questions that we don't know the answer to, like you've just alluded to, is we don't know that a CrossFit class is going to be allowed to have 25 members anymore. We don't know if it's going to be limited by square footage. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. So the best thing you could be doing is just working on all avenues of your business. You there, Jason?
Yep, I'm here. You got me?
How do you run a business with
Hello?
terrible Wi-Fi? Yes. How do you run a business
Bro.
with such bad?
Dude, let me tell you something about my Wi-Fi, Jay. Like, I've had this battle with my Wi-Fi for like 12 years. Like, Optimum has a monopoly on my location, and I cannot get anybody else to come in here and get me Wi-Fi. And the service I use from Optimum, it's quote unquote their top level service. I can't even stream a freaking podcast on my service, dude. It's so insane, man.
So let's go back to something you mentioned before, completely off topic. You mentioned that
Okay.
you're an introvert.
Mm.
So I love this topic, but how do you define it? You know, anyone that met you, when you see a coach in action, you automatically assume they're an extrovert. And especially what I know about you, I mean, to be on the seminar staff, coaching people, you know, to do what you've done, you know, you coach the grid, you were the head coach there also. So how do you define the fact that you're an introvert?
That's a great question. I guess I'm not that much of an introvert now that you put it like that. I mean, like,
I convinced you very quickly
yeah, I
that
think
you're an extrovert.
So I guess I could backtrack to this. Like, I know what my priorities and my values are, and I will stick to those and I don't worry about anything else, you know. And so my values and things that I love, like my family, my wife, my kids, programming, the gym, coaching, like all those things jazz me up, you know. So playing basketball, I can do that stuff for hours on end and like be dialed in with no matter what it is. And like anything else, like I guess care less about, which is good or bad, I'm not sure. But like if I go home, I can coach all day long, talk to people all day long, write programs, and I can go home and sit on my couch and write more programs and not talk to a single soul and be completely complacent in life, you know, and or be my family and not worry about hanging out with anybody else but just my wife and kids. So I guess I'm not an introvert necessarily. I think you definitely changed my mind on that one pretty quickly, but I don't know what that is. I don't know
No,
what you call that.
I agree with you because I'm the same way. I think to me, it's a matter of how you recharge your batteries.
Mm.
So just because you can be in public and doing it, you know, so you know Chuck Carswell, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So Chuck and I can fly somewhere, as could you, and we can land, and all I want to do is go to my hotel room and chill out. Where all Chuck wants to do is go to a bar and talk to people. And to me, it's like that's how you recharge is often a reflection of if you're introverted or extroverted.
Totally. Like we could
So
be on that plane, right? And I could say not one word to you and be like, man, this is a great flight I just took with Jay. And we wouldn't have
exactly.
one conversation, you know?
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think that's just sometimes it's like because we're so burned out of talking to people that we want to chill out, and sometimes it's just truly how we relax. You have become known as one of the best programmers. I mean, hey, maybe a lot of what I'm throwing on there is my opinion, but
I appreciate that.
to me at least, you know, it's from a distance. The programmers I respect, like you and Ben Bergeron, more than anyone, partially because we kind of grew up together in this world, but because you just put some great, elegant, and simple programming together to get the best better.
Hmm.
How did
Thank
you
you.
get good at that? Because I mean, I was talking to someone the other day. They were like, "Why don't you do more programming?" I'm like, not only do I not enjoy that, I'm not good at it. I don't know. And we grew up at the same time. We programmed back in the day for sectionals,
Yeah,
regionals, you know, the boxes. But I feel like you and Ben took this direction towards improving human movement through programming to the next level.
yeah. You know, I look at it like it's a passion of mine, you know, and like I've seen you around your passions and you work tirelessly and endlessly at it to continually learn and get better, you know, and it's something that I just get jazzed up for, with understanding energy systems finer, understanding strength protocols better, understanding whatever it might be, just really diving into breathing techniques, to meditative work, anything that can improve human performance. Like, I love, and it's something like, even to this day, I'll still search out and read 2 to 3 books a month on just that, and I'll search out 1 to 2 mentors every single month and ask them questions on things that I have questions on, and I'll continue to look to refine it. It's kind of like, for me, I look at it as, when I was playing basketball, I wake up every day and do ball handling drills for like an hour, and then do 300 to 500 jump shots every single day, and then do conditioning work, right? And then go play basketball on top of that, right? And I take the same approach to it, where every single day I try to find opportunities and ways that I can become a better coach and programmer, and deliver that to people in a way that's going to resonate with them in a more efficient way to improve their performance, their movement, their goals. And it's something that just jazzes me up. So I'll just continue to work out all the nuances of it.
If someone is listening and they want to get better at it, what are some easy steps or the first steps they can take to learn more about it and become a better programmer?
It's a great question too. I think, to start programming, and I guess I'll reframe that a little bit more. I think my first major client was Rob Orlando, and it was at he didn't qualify for the games the year before. Something happened, and he's like, "Hey, I want to get back to the CrossFit Games." And this was like the first year at Carson, I think, when they did the first swim. So unfortunately, there's a bad outcome with the swim, where he came up and grabbed the surfboard.
But this is the year he made it with the 3-rep clean and jerk in the parking lot.
No. So I did his endurance work there. So that I wasn't like the sole programmer from that, but the year coming back, I don't think he made it, or something happened, and we're going into Carson. He's like, "Hey, I want to qualify for the games. Will you program for me?" And I didn't program for anybody for the games. And I was like, I said no. I was like, I had no idea what to do, man. Like, no. And he's like, in typical Rob Orlando fashion, he made fun of me, threw a couple explicit swear words at me. And I was like, all right, fine. Like, fuck it, I'll just do it. And we did it. And I dove into that really hard, and we made it. And I think just having that experience of writing programs and consulting with people and being like, hey, what does this look like? What do you do? Like, that was really like the best step for me, was just to start doing it, and experimenting. And thankfully I experimented on him and it came out right. But, experiment with yourself, write programs, write basic programs, like do a basic hypertrophy phase, and I don't mean anything basic, do a basic strength phase, right? And I think when you start trying to program for the sport of CrossFit, that's when it can get a little overwhelming, because there's so many protocols into it, right? We have hypertrophy, strength, weightlifting, aerobic capacity, gymnastics. And it's like, well, how do I couple that all together with proper load, intensity, and volume? And I think the better that you can understand each component individually of, well, how do I get somebody stronger? How can I increase somebody's power? How can I build capacity, right? How can I improve someone's gymnastics from building their strength from a grade A level, basic level? And as you can start to formulate those in a single component, it will then become easier to understand the proper applications of stress and how to combine them all to make it flow smoothly for someone to progress.
You've trained dozens, if not hundreds, of athletes. Would you prefer an athlete that just accepts your programming and just says, yes, coach, and does it? Or would you prefer an athlete that questions you on everything you're giving them?
So, question from a state of understanding for proper application, not question from a state of lack of buy-in.
Correct. Yeah, they're bought in. Both of these athletes are going to do anything you tell them, but one is just like, yes, coach, and one is like, wants to get a better understanding of it.
Yeah, I like a little bit of both. I like athletes who, so I guess if you're making me choose one, I want an athlete that's just going to get it done. Just, here's what you're doing, this is what you're doing. I want you to think less. Because I think with athletes too, if you look at athletes in any sort of sport, right, the time that they get the most held up is when their brains are working too much. If we can get their brains to relax, to understand, that's when we can get athletes to become more resilient. It's like, that's why mental or visualization is so key, because with inside visualization, you're just getting mental practice. So when that situation occurs, you become more resilient because mentally you kind of like click over, like, oh, I remember this. I put my body through this, quote unquote. And when people are thinking too much and trying to understand the exact whys way too much, I think their brain's working way too much. Because I've had athletes with that who were extremely intelligent, became great coaches, but as they're doing it, they were, well, why am I doing this? Now explain the energy system process and the exact ramifications of different zones and heart rates. And then for them, it's like, well, my heart rate's up a little too high. I got to back off. It can't happen. It's like, well, no, just let it go. Sometimes it's okay to ride the lightning if it's there, so from an athlete standpoint, I really like athletes that are just like, all right, yes, coach, I'm gonna get it done no matter what. I think those athletes have the ability to quiet their brain the most and just work. And when a workout comes up, they can almost be more in tune with their bodies because they're thinking less. So they can understand their own fatigue factors a little more, and they can understand pacing within internally a little bit more because they're not thinking so much about prescriptions and dose responses and breathing protocols. It's like, no, I feel this, I'm going to do this now to become more resilient. Okay, I feel fatigue here, I'm going to switch and do this in order to become more muscular efficient under fatigue. So I like that.
The classic CrossFit workout is Fran. Everybody knows it. There's a handful of others that have taken on a life of their own, from Murph to some of the games workouts. If someone were to look back at your career in 50 years or so, what's the Jason Leydon workout that would be considered the classic?
Oh man, that's a great question. I don't think I have a classic one. That we once did a athlete camp like 5 years ago. It was like 50 people in here. Is at our second location, Jay, and you were at that one. And the workout was 750-meter row, as fast as you possibly can from the sound to go. We're gonna rest 12 minutes, and we're gonna do that 3 times. And you look at that and like, all right, cool, like a little longer than 500, not quite 1,000, but I'm gonna ram into it, right? But you think about the time of it, it's like that, almost like exactly that top level Fran time of like that really like almost like a 2-minute sort of range, right? If you're really hammering it. And we lined up these rowers, we had 20 rowers from Comp 2. And at that point, we had 20 just horses on the rower from back in the days of the Northeast Regional, right? I think just all these studs were there, like Berger and all these guys just crushing it. And it was just mayhem. I think like out of the 20 people, like 17 of them were throwing up, like their body, the whole body convulsing thing. And because if you take any workout and add intensity and camaraderie and the competitive spirit, like people are going to kill themselves to try to win, especially if there's no skill involved, right? If there's no load involved. It's just how big is your heart and how hard can you push for this? Go ahead, have at it, right? So if you ask the majority of people, they'd probably say that because a lot of them kind of went through that one, but honestly, like, I feel like I'm copping out on that question, but over the years, Jay, like based off the increasing demands of the sport and what we're trying to do, like my tests and my workout tests have changed almost like every single year based off just what I think people should be able to do, or what I'm projecting like Dave's going to have them do when it comes to the games, right? Or projecting like what are the regionals going to, or sanctionals going to put out based off who's programming for the sanctionals. So a lot of my tests have changed over the years. I probably don't have any major staple ones right now because I actually just kind of changed them like a year and a half ago.
Right. And then of course, with uncertainty, we don't know what's coming this year for sanctionals in the games. That's a terrible sounding workout. I mean, those are the best, right? The Fran is 2 movements, and that's 1 movement. And yeah, that's just, I was, as you were saying it, I was thinking as I was finishing the first one, how that would be the worst part, because how bad it feels and you have to do it 2 more times.
Yeah. And when you're stuck in that group of people that are at your level and it's like no one's holding back, it's like, all right, well, I'll stay like that 90% effort and finish good. It's like, well, then you're going to finish last, and you got to put your name on the board at the very bottom with your time. So it was just these horses just killing themselves to put their names in like that top 3 for that. And it was fucking intense. Yeah.
So I know you got to get moving. Two last questions. One,
Yeah, man.
you mentioned visualization. Obviously, for a lot of people right now, this could be the opportune time to start incorporating it. We might not have barbells or rowers. What are some tips for those just starting with visualization that have never done any?
I'm a huge fan of this, and I'll actually, from a business owner standpoint, I'll visualize my day every single morning. So I'll wake up and I'll go through my breathing protocols, and part of my morning routine is to see my entire day unfold in my head, from doing my exact morning routine to getting my kids to school, to getting into the gym, to opening of the doors, to doing my work, to writing my programs, to doing my workout, to handling questions. You know, and what I try to do in my visualization is I'll look to find triggers that might offset my emotions. It's something I don't want, and I'll kind of practice myself in my mind going through those triggers to give it a better outcome, or to handle it better. You know, I do that with my family a lot as well, my reaction to my kids. And that's helped me immensely. I mean, I even visualize myself like paying off debt, you know, like any little thing in my life, like I try to see myself doing it. And that helps me process things better. And from a sport perspective, what I always tell my athletes is to do just that. Like before you can start by, before you get into a training session, like sit down and just see yourself going through that training session. You know, if it's, no matter what it might be, and no matter what the demands or requirements of that training session, I just walk through it. Because if I'm working with athletes who are trying to compete higher at a sanctional level, or the games, if you look at, let's just say the best in the world, right? Let's look at Matt Frazier and Rich. They're so calm, right? And exactly what they're going to do it, how they're going to do it. And if you look at anybody in any sport, to get into that flowed state, to get into that relaxed state in the eyes of chaos and uncertainty, is because they feel like they've been there before. So their body is able to relax and they can perform. And when their body's able to relax, it's like a race car where all the functions just shut off, and you're just using what you need to use to be successful in the preservation of energy and the effectiveness of what you're doing. And the only way you can do that is mentally, to quiet your brain down. And you can quiet it down by simply just start visualizing whatever workout you're doing, and see yourself doing it, see yourself walking through it, and see like a tough time coming up in the workout and how you're going to handle that, and going, and if you have a game plan, the game plan falls through, well, what are you going to do to come out of that game plan? And the more you put yourself in these situations and walk yourself through that situation, your brain happen. And if you are on a competition floor, your brain's like, all right, I've been here before. All right, I've had this feeling before. I understand what I need to do if my game plan like doesn't work out. I understand what I need to do if the strategy just isn't quite there. I'm not feeling it, you know. And that's really how I'd start. Did that answer the question? I know.
Yeah, no, I think, you answered it. It's always good to just kind of understand what you're about to go through, whether it's the beginning of your day, a fight with the kids, or, a fight with the barbell.
Yeah, totally.
So any books you would recommend on visualization, or you mentioned just earlier books and mentors. I always like to find out from the best minds what they're reading.
Ooh, that's great. So I just finished 2 books this month. I finished a book called 80-20 by Matt Fitzgerald. That's a book understanding the go slower to go faster principle from a complete endurance standpoint. I segued that off of 2 other books, which was the Training for the Uphill Athlete and the Training for the New Alpinism. So I was thinking about like, okay, if CrossFit is an endurance sport, like yes, you need your strength backgrounds, you need everything else, but if you're going to you have to have capacity. Well, if you look at the people, the greatest capacity in the world, whether it's, sub 2 hour, if you look at 2-hour marathon runners, or people who are doing, 24-hour races or 8 to 10-day races up mountains, what does their training look like in order to reach that standpoint, right? So I kind of went down that path for a while, and it kind of all led down to the 80-20 rule. So then I started thinking about the application of the 80-20 rule as regards to CrossFit, or a mixed modal standpoint, and how can we apply going slower to increase more volume in order to go faster when we need to in the long run. So I've been diving into that a lot recently, from an educational standpoint, and then the application standpoint with the workouts themselves. I'm also right now reading a book called The King, the Warrior, the Lover. I forgot. I mean, I just started, but it's kind of like a book about understanding different emotional archetypes within inside the male body or masculinity. I don't know why I started reading that, but I did. It's pretty interesting, just kind of dive into different emotional responses. So usually like every single month, I'll try to dive into an educational piece and then something else that I want to kind of learn more about. Last month, I went down some paths of like meditative breathing practices. And I read the book, what book there? I'm looking at it right now. The Second Mountain and Changemaker were the two books I read last week. Changemaker was a great book. That's
John
a new
Berardi,
book
right?
Yeah, that was a great one. I think that wasn't going around. Another great book I just read too, if you guys are gym owners, is Building a Story Brand. And I keep looking off to the side because my books are right there. That's a book about understanding marketing and telling up the proper story based off who you really want your audience to be so you can connect with them. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like the past 2 months.
That's a great book too. Fern always talks about it, and he used it pretty extensively when opening his box. So
Yeah.
I know you got to run. Thanks for hopping on here. If anyone's listening,
thank you.
Definitely hit that 3 rounds of 750-meter row. Everybody can find Jason at Jason Leydon on social media, right? And then, of course, checking out your box, CrossFit Milford. Any other places they can go to check you out?
So we have our online training platform, conquerathlete.com. We have a podcast there as well, the Conquer Athlete Podcast, which I'd love to have you on that. And we have, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for hopping on. Thanks for, hopping on, especially in the midst of all this chaos. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. How cool is that? There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so it becomes super simple. Some of these episodes with Fern or Todd or myself chatting with one another, we've done right within the app itself. Anchor will make it easy to distribute your podcast to all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make an awesome podcast in one place. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Come on, who doesn't have Spotify at this point? And if you were unaware, Spotify now is offering podcasts. That's right. On Spotify, you can listen to all your favorite artists, but also podcasts in one place for free. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now, Best Hour of Their Day. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Premium users can even download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, something I always do before I hop on a plane. And you can even easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram and other social media platforms. Here's the deal. If you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app, search for Best Hour of Their Day on Spotify, or browse some other podcasts if you want. You can find them in your library tab. And also make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode of Best Hour of Their Day. Thanks again for listening to Best Hour of Their Day, and thanks again to our special guest. We appreciate all you guys do for us with Best Hour of Their Day when it comes to sharing our posts on Instagram, when it comes to subscribing to us on YouTube, when it comes to the constant feedback. We are grateful and we appreciate it. We are trying to build a community based on coaching development and becoming the best version of yourself. And it goes without saying that we couldn't do without all of you. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Season 1 of Dropping In is out. We are getting tremendous feedback and we'd love for you to check it out. Leave us a comment on there. Head over to our Instagram. Give us a follow. Like our pictures. Feel free to share anything that resonates with you. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback for us, please don't hesitate. Email us, besthouroftheirday@gmail.com. Thanks again. Until the next episode, we hope you've had the best hour of your day.